Reverse 1999 patch 1.4 is the gift that keeps giving. Welcome back to Cocky Gachas, and in this video, I'm going to share with some good news, right? For people that are unaware, we are going to get a 5-star quote-unquote selector, right, for patch 1.4 once the patch actually launches. And of course, the devs haven't announced this yet for the global version, but I'm definitely anticipating it since we have been following CN server, right? And this is what they got for patch 1.4. So with that in mind, I'm going to make a tier list because I know that people are going to be curious what are my thoughts on the 5 stars, especially since a lot of the tier lists do not include 5 stars. So I definitely want to make a video for this so that once it comes out, I don't have to just rush to make a video. I'm just making in advance. You guys have some time to think for yourself, right? We still have like 13 days to like 1.4. That is when you're going to have access to this box. So first up, we're going to have Sweetheart, and personally, I think that Sweetheart is going to be in my B tier, and the reason is very simple. Her role, right, is actually a carry. So she wants to be a carry, but she is a 5-star character. This is just like you want to be an NBA player, but you are born 150, so you cannot be NBA player. However, of course, this is not as drastic in the case of Sweetheart. Still usable, still can do damage, just not as good as 6 stars. And also, if her role is like a debuffer, right, then much easier to fit in, right? You don't really have to rely 100% on the damage, but for her, she relies 100% on damage, and also she relies on having a debuffer on the team to complement her so that she can reach her maximum potential. So having this criteria and at the same time fulfilling the role of a 5-star carry is not going to be the easiest, hence I put her in B tier. Moving on, next we're going to have Necrologist, and for Necrologist, I'm going to speak in the context of 1.4 because this is the patch that you're going to get her. Of course, from 1.4 onwards, right, you're always going to have raids, and she really shines a lot in raids, and especially also in 4-man content, because in 3-man content, right, she uses too much cards for her to be actually efficient. Hence, I do not believe that 1.3 and before, right, she is actually usable. But 1.4 onwards, she is technically usable, and the sustain aspects in longer battle, right, for her extra life is really helpful because raid is very difficult, and just like getting some of the raids, right, if you randomly get one hit KO by the boss, you're going to waste a lot of time, especially if you are in the later parts of the raid, right. Having a failsafe is going to be good. The damage bonus also comes in clutch because of the damage reduction that the raid boss is going to naturally have as you progress through the HP bar. So these are the aspects why I think she is going to be in A tier. And also, right, of course, if you're looking at her for portraits, portrait 1 give 40%. If you go on to portrait 5, she's going to give 50% for 3 turns. So really sick, just that she's a bit more AP greedy. So that's her only problem, I think. Okay, next is going to be DK. I will rate DK very low. In fact, I would say DK is a C tier. And the reason why I put DK on C tier is not because of her usability. I think if you want me to rate her on a usability standpoint, I think that if you do not have healers, maybe she's even at A. If you have healers, you need one more healer, she's probably at B. And the reason why I'm putting her at C is because you get this for free on the 7th day, right, as a new beginner, and having extra portraits is not going to benefit that much. So really, right, you shouldn't pick her at all because portraits to her is not going to be beneficial. Don't waste it on her, right? There are better portraits to invest in. Next one is going to be Sasuke, our Japanese woman. Sasuke, I put her in C tier. The reason is because Sasuke, don't get me wrong, she's very strong as a controller, right, quote unquote controller, but she is not as strong as Druvis as a controller naturally because she's a 5-star, and also she kind of complements Druvis, but without Druvis she is really bad. And nowadays the plant teams, right, people should have Beacon, so that's 1 slot gone. A lot of people drew for Jessica, so that's 2 slots, and then you have Unli, that's a 3rd slot already. So 4th slot, do you really want to put in Sasuke? I don't think so. With her alone, she's not going to perform, and you need to free up 2 slots if you want her to complement Druvis. So really depend on your team, but generally I wouldn't suggest picking her and investing in her in general. Next is going to be Beacon. Goes without saying, guys, Beacon is our 7-star god, and it goes without saying that she is in S tier because she is the god in debuffing, right? Because she gives the reality defense reduction as well as damage taken increase for the enemy's debuff in 1 card at 1 star. So you don't even need to upgrade the cards for 2 turns. So this is alone, she's really very strong, and probably would put her in A tier. But she also comes with a very strong DPS kit and also has the seal factor in her ultimate, so she's really an all-rounder if you think about it, right? Her multipliers also rival that of Jessica. It's exact same skill pretty much, right? Hit 2 targets and the same multipliers, and if you have higher portraits, hit even harder. So Honestly, do you think she deserves anything less than S tier? I don't think so. So this is quite straightforward. Next is going to be Tannen. This is going to be controversial. I've always rated Tannen quite lowly. You might think that she is in A tier. Me personally, I don't like her kit. I think that for Tannen, her one round shield is really not that good. And that shield card itself, right, is a very clunky card that really feels bad when you use it. So I don't want to speak too much on her. If you really want to use her, sure, you can still use her. She's not the worst, right? But trying to excessively utilize her shield is going to make you lose out more in terms of DPS, and also her other skills, right? When it comes to the actual debuffing, it's not as flexible as compared to the beacon. And it's tied to ultimate, all these kind of things. Having the bullets are very, very restrictive. So I don't really like her. I put her in B tier. Next is going to be our Charlie. For Charlie, I'm going to put her in A tier, and potentially she can go up to S tier, but I'm thinking of it from a one copy perspective. If you're having it from low copies, right, from P1 to, or rather P0 to P2, not as good. But if you have a P2 Charlie, you need one more copy to go to P3. I think that she should definitely go to S tier. So there are two concerns here when it comes to this mystery box Carnival. Of course, there is the first copy aspect and there is the portraits aspect. Of course, naturally, even if you don't have a character like Sasuke, you wouldn't want to waste your mystery box Carnival on this Sasuke character. Instead, you want to invest in portraits. So for portraits, Charlie is pretty highly rated. But if you're looking for a first copy, she's not going to contribute the most, and she's really, really frail. Next one is going to be Click. And Click, I'm going to put him in C tier. I do have a P5 Click, by the way. I don't really invest in him. A lot of people have been asking me why. And the reason is because he is a very awkward role, right? He is a defensive DPS, like sub DPS user, but that aspect of damage reduction is very restrictive, and at the same time, I feel that other buffers do it better than like him, right? So you just have Soneto. Soneto can easily replace him and do much more with the penetration, having the ultimate do decent damage, and also having the first skill giving 2 buffs, right? Damage taken as well as the damage dealt buff. So I wouldn't even consider him niche because you don't really want to use him in general. There's no aspect that he really excels in, right? As compared to even Sasuke. At least she controls very well. There are not that many characters that control from that aspect, right? So yeah, I think naturally he's going to be in C tier. Next is going to be Baby Blue. I'm going to put Baby Blue in our A tier. I think Baby Blue is still having a place, right? Like I mentioned in my tier list, I think that mental damage is on the rise. So having a dedicated mental debuffer is going to be decent. However, at the same time, just having her as a mental debuffer is not going to be enough, since we are always looking at having DPS and debuffing at the same time, and her debuff isn't even that great, right? Unlike Beacon, one debuff card can like have all of the debuffs, right? Damage taken as well as the reality defense. Her mental defense debuff as well as the damage taken debuff is on 2 separate cards, which is her main problem. So she might even be in B tier if you are not being too generous, right? But I think I'm just going to put her in A tier. Next is going to be our Balloon Party. Balloon Party easy S tier. The game actually lacks healers at this point in time. In the future, there's going to be any side as well, so maybe her stock will drop a bit more. However, right now in 1.4, I think Balloon Party should be a very easy investment and definitely easy pick. If you don't have Balloon Party, just have her. If you want to get her portraits, I think P3 increases her healing capabilities even more, right? Very, very good damage reduction, counter aspects for that little bit of Genesis damage, and also the max HP healing. Okay, very, very strong. Last two, Diggles. Okay, Diggles is a character that I don't include in my tier list, and the reason is very simple. It's because I don't feel that he really rivals that much of the 6-star characters, right? Even inching close, not really inching that close as well. And the reason is very simple. He's basically just a budget shaman but has a lackluster DPS. And like I mentioned, right, usually debuffer, you really want them to be sub DPS as well. I think Diggles really don't do that well. And also there's a fact, right, because he's a hybrid debuffer, reality and mental defense. That means that his capabilities are further like nerfed. Jack of all trades but master of none is what I would describe Diggles. Lastly is going to be our X. And X, I wouldn't say he falls in the C tier. In fact, I would say B tier should be quite reasonable. And the reason is because the dispelling rule is going to be more and more important. Even if you just look at like the upcoming raids, right? All the raid bosses have a lot of those buffs. So if you really want to fill him in just to get you through, maybe get A rank, A plus rank, right? probably X can fulfill that role. Dispelling is really X's best trait, and he really excels at that, right? So this is the only part that I think X excels in, but he's pretty good at it, so that is why I think he's in B tier. Niche, not really that generally useful as common as the debuffers and as needed as the debuffers, but if you really want to invest in X, you really want to have an X, he is actually not that bad as people say he is. And of course, this is just my opinion on what you should be picking for your mystery box Carnival. However, one more note that I like to put in first is that I do think that for the characters that are in B tier and lower, I do not suggest you to waste on them even if you do not have it. If you really want to just collect for the characters, right, and still have some usability, A tier is definitely great. These two characters, I would say it's better than compared to the lower end of the A tier, and having portraits might be better as compared to having a character that you have to invest in but really isn't that good anyway. So I would still suggest for people to go for portraits of the S tier characters and the higher A tier characters instead of going for the lower B tier and the C tier characters in general. Also, if you do not agree with me, definitely leave a comment in the comment section below to let me know why and what are your thoughts on these characters and what are your thoughts on having a free 5-star character that Blue Pop is giving out. Also, if you're interested in checking the general 1.4 tier list, definitely check out this video over here. I'll see you guys over there. This is Cocky Gachas signing off.